how many toasted sandwiches do we need to sell a week to pay both of us as much, if not more, than the dole? That was our business plan. Where were we up to?
We're up to Austria.
What, I just got here? Had we covered off how I got here?
Yeah, we can do some recapping.
Okay, well, we're going to have to ask questions this time, or it's just going to be me rambling again.
I will ask questions, but I want to begin by saying, the Icelandic banking crisis. You were completely right. I had no idea.
Totally fucking wrong. Nothing to do with subprime.
No, it was to do with that. I've just got this snippet up from the Financial Times.
You're going to justify that you actually do know what you're on about, but you didn't at the time.
The Icelandic banking crisis, which came a few weeks after the Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy on September 15th, 2008, was more extreme and longer lasting than those endured almost anywhere else. So, it was the three biggest banks. At the time of their collapse, it made bailouts all but impossible. So, I was talking about the Lehman Brothers thing and didn't know about the Icelandic thing, but there we go. We're all learning here.
Right. Are you doing the intro or am I doing the intro? What am I doing? What are we doing?
Well, you can intro if you want. We've already started.
I just say I'm back. We've started already, have we?
You're back. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. It's Andy Rose in Kaprun, Austria, back for part 2 of Growing Up with Delia Burgess.
So where we got to on part 1 was... this scene you described that you were fixing a car. So because of that Icelandic bank crash and everything else, you'd lost your job, which was paying you enough money to buy jeans that cost more than your couch.
Yeah, I had a very cheap couch. I had 2 of them.
And you sold the Porsche, and then you're fixing cars, and you were under this blow-up tent in the snow fixing a car, and you're like, well, if I'm going to be in the snow, why don't I just move to Austria and become a ski instructor? As you'd always wanted to since childhood.
Yeah, pretty much. That's where we were at, wasn't it? But I think before we carry on, you need to kind of justify that you didn't know anything about the Icelandic banks, don't you?
Yeah, I've just said that.
Oh, I thought you had a statement to read. Or was that just for my benefit?
No, that was it. I just read that out of the newspaper. So,
we'd already started to record, have we?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realise that. Oh, well, there you go, folks. We're back for part 2. So, I was under a blow-up shelter, wasn't I? Repairing a car, and then went, right, sod this, let's go skiing. And here we are now, sat in 10 degrees of heat, Christmas to New Year week, and the snow is very quickly melting.
Oh, really?
Not ideal. Not ideal. Yeah, so what do you want to know now then?
Well, okay, can you say how did your divorce fit in with this?
Very nicely. So I that had all gone tits up, and I was no longer in a marriage relationship, let's say, albeit I was still married. And I decided to come over to Austria and do my first winter, requalify as a ski teacher. And my plan was that once the house was sold, I would move over to Austria for the following winter and then stay indefinitely. Obviously, 10 years later, here I am. However, while I was away, the house didn't sell. Got very few viewings. I don't know if that was because my ex-wife was living in it or whether that was the agent wasn't doing his job. So I went back in the May of 2013 after moving over here in the November of 2012 and changed the agent and got the house sold in a few weeks, basically. So that enabled me to come over here and buy a property, albeit a much smaller property, which I think I touched on in part 1, maybe. And
but
kind of that was the end of that. That was once the house was sold, the divorce could start, and the divorce eventually came through the following January, when I was halfway through my second winter.
Okay. So was the breakup to do with the job and everything else happening, or that was just a separate thing?
To do with the job? Which job?
The Porsche job.
No, not really. No. Basically, she had an affair for 7 years.
And you didn't know about it?
Not for quite some time, no. Which is kind of quite disappointing that you don't realise. But when I did realise, I absolutely unearthed a plethora of things and had every bit of kind of evidence that it had been going on for a long, long time. So yeah. So basically, that's what happened. Yeah, she'd been messing about. I didn't know. Once I found out, I kind of went, "Oh, okay then." And then yeah, that all kind of tied in with me coming back because it enabled me to come back. Man, I could do what I wanted. She did me a favour, to be fair. Because from what I can see, her life sucks and man's fucking fantastic.
But you were obviously sad.
Yeah, but by the time 2012 came along, I was kind of over it and pretty much out the other side because I'd known then for quite some time. I'd known and I'd been able to backtrack and figure out it had been going on for a long time, on and off and on and off. So at the time of first finding out and the realization, then yeah, very upsetting. Not a nice situation to be in. But you get over it. You come out on the other side, and you normally come out pretty stronger, from what I can see. I was only speaking to somebody last week who's in a similar situation. There was several of us in the gondola who were all divorced, and we said to the guy, like, listen, honestly, your life will be so much better off once you're out. You'll be able to do things that you haven't been able to do, go places you haven't been, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, in a way, disappointing at the start, but whatever. Okay. You know,
So you didn't beat yourself up about it. You weren't like, why has this happened to me? I'm such an idiot, or
not in that kind of way. No, I was obviously I was disappointed and upset in what she'd done and tried to work out why she'd done it. But you can think about it and think about it and think about it forever and a day. At the end of the day, it's happened for whatever reason. Takes two to tango, and it takes two to stay married. You know what I mean? And if one ain't doing the tango, one's doing a quick step, it ain't going to work. You know.
So you didn't let it kind of affect your self-esteem or sense of, because you just kind of get on with things?
Yeah, fuck it. You know what I mean? But as I say, it gave me the chance in a way. Even after you get over the disappointment, you go, well, hang on a minute. I can do what I've always wanted to do, because I would never have been able to do this if I was still married to her. We would have just carried on going on ski holidays that cost a fortune. So, I say, in a way, she did me a favour. It was at a time where I'd lost my job. I'd lost like all of that stuff.
It happened after that?
Well, it had been going on. What had been going on had been going on for a long time.
When you found out?
What was the question?
When you found out about it, was that after you'd lost the job?
2009. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I found out 110% what had been going on, and that it was all over in January 2012. Yeah, January 2012.
What, that it was all over between you two?
Or between those two? That she was and had been having an affair for quite some time.
Is she still with the guy?
No.
Did you know him?
Yes. Yeah. And I thought he was a cunt before I knew he was a cunt, if I'm allowed to say cunt. I just did 3 times.
He wasn't a friend of yours?
No, he was somebody who did some work on our house. And yeah, I don't know how it happened, how it got started. I don't know any of that kind of stuff, but I do know a lot of other stuff because I was able to obtain a lot of stuff.
But so, and is that important for the divorce or something?
No, at the time I thought it was, because I thought it was like in America where if you divorce someone, you can take them to the cleaners, and it was kind of like it didn't seem to work like that. It was like just split everything 50-50, go for the most easiest possible divorce option is what the advice was from the solicitor, and don't even state why you wanted to divorce them, just because you wanted to get divorced, kind of thing. The most simplified thing. If you'd named the third party, that can cause all sorts of stuff, all sorts of additional crap, apparently. It was just like do it the most simplistic way, which is what we did. Everything was split 50-50, quite amicably, and she went on her way and I went on my way. And I literally, the day the house was handed over, the keys were exchanged, money went into our bank accounts, I got in the car and drove to Kent on my way to Austria.
And you've never seen her again?
No, not in the flesh.
So when you found out, you were just like, all right, that's done then. I'm just moving forward.
Well, after a space of time of trying to work out who, where, what, when, why, then yeah, you just go, oh, fuck it, well, it's over, it's done. Crack on, you know? She'd obviously been cracking on, so why didn't I start cracking on? Which I did.
Okay. Okay, so then you go to Austria and you are like, I'm going to start a new life.
Pretty much, yeah. New apartment. Brought the dog with me because she wouldn't take the dog. It was her dog. Brought the dog with me. Moved into my apartment, I think September the 2nd, 2013. And that was it, yeah. Here we go. New chapter. Let's go for it, you know? And go for it we did.
And did you ever doubt, like, what am I doing? Why have I done this?
Nah. Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. I obviously my earnings decreased significantly when I left the drinks business and started repairing cars. My earnings decreased significantly when I got to Austria and started teaching skiing. However, my outgoings had decreased because I owned the property. I didn't have a mortgage. The bills on that apartment, because it's so small, are relatively low. And literally within 2 weeks of moving into the apartment, even though it's a 30 square meter studio, one of the ski teachers that I'd worked with the year before needed somewhere to stay, what was supposed to be for a couple of weeks before he'd go into his ski school accommodation. And he stayed at mine, and he ended up staying for the whole winter, which meant in that first winter he paid rent, which covered all of my outgoings, my bills. I didn't have any bills to pay for the first winter.
Where did you sleep?
There's enough space for 2 beds. So I was at one end of the room with the dog, and he was at the other end next to the kitchen. We had a great time, actually, as it was with Yordi. It was just like, it was my first winter of real freedom. He was actually in a relationship with a girl in Holland who came to see him every now and then, but whenever she did, they went and stayed in a hotel. But we had a good time. Yeah.
So did you have any sense of like learning to become a ski instructor and starting at the bottom and being around, presumably there's a lot of young kids who are doing that as well?
Yeah, so when I came back at the start of 2012, I had to requalify. So I did a preparation course, which is a big thing now, which is what I work on in the pre-season. And we train people to get them ready for their exams because it gives them about a 90% chance of passing rather than a 50% chance of passing. And I went on one of these courses. It was 4 weeks long, 4 or 5 weeks long, where we basically were being trained to pass the exam. And then I was one of the oldest people. There was about 200 people on the course, I think, maybe 150. And there was one other guy who was 60-ish. There was me and a couple of other slightly older people, but everyone else was like 18 to 25, maybe. But that was kind of cool. Whatever, we were there to do a course. If anything, I was one of the bigger party animals than any of the youngsters, to be fair, over that course and that first season. And then when we did the exams, you were in a group. The other guy, Duncan, who's I think was about 60, 62 at the time, he was in my group for the exam, and then the rest of them were all youngsters. But some of them were good skiers. Some of them weren't quite as good as myself at the time, you know. But I think out of my group, we all passed. Everybody passed the level 1 exam. And I think out of that exam group, of what I know, there's only 3 of us still in the industry. A guy called Eddie, who's in Obergurgl, and then Duncan, who's now in his 70s, who's worked in Kaprun with me for the last 10 years, and me. Out of our group of 7, I think we're the only 3 still teaching. Yeah.
And the change in salary, I guess it's, as you said, you wouldn't have had that pride attached to it because you're like, I'm in a whole new situation. These are my outgoings, and I can cover them.
Yeah, and I knew. So I didn't spend all of my money that came out of the house on the apartment. I had some money in the bank, so I knew if I needed it, it was there. It was a significant drop in salary, but what do you need when you're out on a mountain most of the day? All you need when you get back home is some food, you know, food and a bit of spending money when you go out. So I was never short of money. I always had a bit of money, even though the pay, and I tell you exactly, we were earning €850 a month, which is not a lot of money. But unfortunately, that's what ski teachers or first level ski teachers get paid in their first season.
And what's the tax like? Oh, that's after tax.
That's after tax. But then you earn so little through the season, any tax you've paid, you get back if you do a tax return, because you're a low income earner, so you're not getting taxed. Like in the UK, I don't know what the threshold is now, 11 grand or whatever the threshold is. Similar over here. So if you're a ski teacher in the winter, depending on how much you earn in the summer, you normally get your tax back. So yeah, but then obviously I finished that first winter, and it was going to be my first summer in Austria, and that meant I had to get a job that paid slightly better, because I couldn't have got through the summer without a job. And it was quite fortunate that Thompson Lakes and Mountains, which is owned by TUI, who also have Crystal Ski, they used to have a summer rep in Kaprun. And they used to have a team of 3 in Zell and 1 in Saalbach. And I had met the manager, or someone had put me in contact with the manager of that team. And I'd said, if you needed someone for Kaprun in the summer, then I lived in Kaprun. I knew Kaprun, I knew the hoteliers, etc. I thought I would be a good fit for that role. And as it was, I got a job with TUI, albeit you were employed in the UK and then sent to the country where you were going to work. Now, I was already in the country, so they didn't have to send me here, but they used to have to apply for something called an A1, which is this is before Brexit, and it was something to do with the fact you were employed in the UK, but the work was being carried out in a different country. So they had to get this thing called an A1. Now, at the time, I was still in the British system, so I still had a national insurance number, and I was therefore seen as like a season worker. So I'd done a winter season for Austrians, and then I was doing a summer season, but for an English company, which meant I got paid in pounds. And again, the money wasn't fantastic, but it was better than ski teaching. But the fact was, because I had my own accommodation, I didn't need their accommodation. So they would pay you a certain amount of money. Let's pretend, I can't remember how much it was. Let's say it's €1,500 a month, pounds a month. They would then take away 400 for accommodation, 100 for uniform, 50 a month for insurance, and some other money. And they put it under the guise of, what do they call it? Provision of work. So basically they said, we're going to pay you 1,500, but we're going to take most of it off you, and you'll come out with 900, let's say. However, our provision of service, I didn't need provision of service because I had a place to live. I had insurance. The only thing I needed was a uniform. You can't take money off me for a uniform that you're asking me
What
to wear.
kind of insurance?
Health insurance.
Okay.
Because in essence, because I was employed in the UK, I needed to have a health insurance for Europe in case something happened to me here, because the e-card would only cover the first 110, 150 pounds worth of treatment. So because I wasn't paying for provision of service, I wasn't on their insurance. So I had my own insurance. So anyway,
What
I didn't have to
insurance
pay.
did you have?
I just got like a summer workers insurance, like a backpackers insurance, which cost about €100, which again, they wanted 50 a month off me or something like that. But because I didn't pay provision of service, I got whatever the full amount was they were paying a month. For the sake of this, call it €1,500 or £1,500. But it was paid in pounds into the UK, and the exchange rate was almost 1.50 to the pound, €1.50 to the pound. So I actually made more, considerably more than anybody else in the team, because they were all paying provision of service, which meant through that first summer I had quite a lot of money, which enabled me to save going into the next winter. And in the winter, my money had gone up slightly. It hadn't gone up massively. It had gone up slightly for the next winter. And I ended up doing that as a summer job for 2 summers. But when I became fully, transferred into Austria, they could no longer get me this A1 because they couldn't get me the right to work in Austria because I was an Austrian resident. So I could no longer do that job for TUI in Austria.
So you became an Austrian resident after 2 years there or something?
Well, I was already a resident, but I had like an overlap of tax in the UK and tax in Austria. So they managed to get it for the first one, and they managed to get it for the second one. But by the time the third had come, I was out of the system in the UK. I didn't have a national insurance number anymore, so they couldn't get me an A1. Yeah, because I
So
was.
what's your situation now?
It's all changed then because of Brexit. But when
Do you have
Brexit happened, if you'd been in Austria for more than 5 years with a residency certificate, you could apply for what they've called an Article 50 card. So an Article 50 card is basically, it's a residency certificate, but it's a piece of cardboard, a piece of plastic card rather than a piece of paper. So all I had to do was go to one of the government offices in Zellamzee and say, here is my residency certificate. Can I please have an Article 50? You then had to fill in maybe one form and show them that you had a place to live, that you had work in Austria, and that was it. There was no other hoops to jump through because I already had a residency certificate and I've been here for more than 5 years. If you'd been here for less than 5 years, you had to do criminal record check. You had to show how much money you had in the bank. You had to show that you had a property or had a lease on a property. You had to show you had work. You had to do a load of other things to get your 5-year card.
So now how long can you stay there?
I can stay indefinitely, but the card has to be renewed every 10 years. But there are the 2 different cards. So the 5-year card and the 10-year card give you different rights. So I can actually leave Austria for any number of months and work in another country outside of the EU because I can't go and work in any other country in the EU. I can leave for any space of time and come back, no problem. Where a 5-year card holder, I think they can only leave for 3 months, and then if they don't come back, they lose their card, or they have to come back within the 3 months to keep their card current.
Would you want to get a passport there?
This is the other thing, because if I had an Austrian passport, I could then work in other countries in Europe. So, like when COVID hit and we were closed and Switzerland was open, I thought I could go and work in Switzerland for the winter, but I couldn't because I'd have to sign out of Austria, lose my card, sign into Switzerland, and then have to then try and get back into Austria, which you might not have been able to do because of Brexit. So the passport would be useful in that respect. other than that, I don't see it being any better.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's something that I keep thinking about and keep talking to people about. And at the moment, I've got a British passport. It gets me in and out of any country I really want to go to. So, I don't know.
Yeah. So going back to the start when you first moved to Austria, like what was your attitude? Or when you bought a place, you settled in, you thought, okay, I'm going to give it a crack as a instructor, and then
Mhm.
like what were you thinking for the next 5 or 10 years, or you just didn't know?
There was no kind of 5 or 10 year plan. There never really has been, because it's kind of too hypothetical in my opinion. Where will you be in 5 years? Who knows? There's too many other factors that are going to shape the journey other than yourself. Um, so I was just cracking on with it. I was like, right, I'm going to ski in the winters and I'll do something in the summer. I actually thought at the time I would earn the majority of my money in the winter and take it easier in the summer. Um, but it's actually ended up now where I make more money in the summer than I do in the winter, um, through different things that have happened over the years. And again, if you'd asked me if I thought I would have been running a restaurant in Austria when I got here 10 years ago, I would have said, don't be silly, I don't want to go back into the restaurant business. But that's where we find ourselves now, running a restaurant in the summer and skiing in the winter. Um, but again, that came about because of the other outside factors that we've all had to endure with COVID and lockdowns and things. Because after I'd done them two summers for TUI, I ended up working for a contractor of TUI, who they're the people who are contracted to do their transport, and they supply the guides and the coaches for all of the TUI tours. So if you come on holiday with TUI in the summer to Austria, you get offered. You can go on a day out to Salzburg. You can go on the Grossglockner High Alpine Pass. You can go and see Crimmel waterfalls. All these different tours and excursions. And if you go on them, there is a coach driver, and a guide. And I worked as a guide for half a day on a Thursday, and then I did a little bit of driving for them on a Wednesday and a Saturday, driving an 8-seater minibus. And then if there was ever any tours where there was a second coach needed on the busy weeks, I would guide the second coach. And that was kind of my perfect scenario, because that meant I was working 6 days a week in the winter and now earning better money. And in the summer, I only worked 2.5 days a week. So I had loads of time to go to the gym, ride my bike, go hiking, go out with the dog, just kind of taking it easy, which was always my idea, that that's the life I wanted in Austria. Work hard in the winter, take it easy in the summer. But it's actually been flipped around since COVID, which is kind of interesting. Albeit the winter income has increased because of the Snow Camps Europe thing, which obviously we spoke about in part one, and the fact that you were a Snow Camps guest. So that has also increased the earnings in
Yeah.
the winter, because if all I did in the winter was be a ski teacher, the money wouldn't be enough. It wouldn't be enough
Enough for what?
to live live a decent life. Let's say there wouldn't be enough money coming in to allow you to do the nice things. It would be it'd be quite tight if you only had ski teacher money to
And
kind
what
of
are the nice things for you?
uh, going out, eating out, spending money on other people. Um, Obviously, I said in part one, I no longer go out and buy expensive clothes. But if I need to go and buy a pair of jeans, I need to go and buy a pair of jeans. I don't want to be in a situation where I have to think, oh, do I go and spend €15 on a pair of jeans from Primark, or do I not? Where I can go and spend as much as I want, but I choose not to spend as much. You know. Also, being able to use the time off in between seasons to go on holiday is nice. And again, I don't really take extravagant holidays anymore like I used to, but at least I'm able to take holidays. And where I used to take a 1 week extravagant holiday, I can now have 8 weeks away if I want, because I have 8 weeks off in between seasons. I wouldn't be able to do that if all I did was earn ski teacher money, you know?
So was that the motivation for starting your own business?
No. The motivation for starting a winter business, there was two main things. One was I could see that the majority of ski schools in this area that I had knowledge of didn't really give any level of customer service outside of executing a ski lesson. There was no added value. There was nothing other than you turned up at 9:30. You got given your lesson until 11:30, and then that was it. So I saw that there was a gap to give people more for their money, and then to enhance the ski school experience.
And how did you sense people wanted that? Did you see that there were people coming on their own who would just kind of do a lesson and then they didn't really know what to do with themselves?
Well, it wasn't so much that the people didn't know what to do. It's just, in my opinion, a ski teacher is, yes, first and foremost there to teach you to ski, but they're an ambassador for the village, for the area. They should have knowledge of what's going on. They should be able to advise you how to get the best out of your week in resorts, whether that's they tell you what's going on a Monday night in one place or a Thursday night on another, recommendations for for restaurants, for other things to do, whether it be going on a sleigh ride, go tobogganing, going up the mountain for dinner with entertainment. And I saw that most of the ski teachers, because a good number of them are very young and they're only here for one season, they didn't have that knowledge or ability to add that value in that way. Some of them can, but most of them can't. And most of them just don't really want to, because they're getting paid €850 to teach people to ski. So that's what they do. They don't really do anything else. And I can't blame some of them, to be honest. But I also saw some of the longer term ski teachers were also not really doing anything, even though they did have the knowledge. They didn't really actively use it. So I kind of, in my head, and what I was doing, and I did this from the start, was okay, folks, what are you up to tonight? Did you know this is happening? The ski show is on. You can go and watch it from this time to this time. On Wednesday, you can go up the mountain if you want to go and see some traditional entertainment. I can call them and book you a table. If people have problems with hire equipment, I would go back to the shop with them and make sure the equipment got sorted out properly. If people were interested in buying skis or boots, I would take them, introduce them to the boot fitters and say, Joe Bloods wants to buy a pair of boots. Can you please help him out? And just a different level of service other than teaching them to ski.
And that's just naturally, you just have that inclination to help people.
It probably comes from a background of getting restaurants and the sales element of that, and then the sales element in the drinks industry, and then working for myself with the car business. If all I'd done was repair cars, I wouldn't have made as much money as if I was repairing cars and talking to people about how they looked after their cars, or did their friends need work doing, etc., etc. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm helping you so you can help me kind of scenario. And again, in the situation with the skiing, I've got clients that I skied with on my first season who have been back once or twice a winter, every winter since.
Okay, so it's building relationships.
Yeah,
for repeat business.
Yeah, and that was so they're the two reasons why snow camps came about. And it also coincided with my knee, and it coincided with me putting a very large booking into the ski school I was working for. I think I'd booked out 7 ski teachers of people who'd contacted me for lessons over a week in February. And this was why I was out. I wasn't actually skiing. And the reason I needed ski teachers was I had 7 different clients all coming on the same week that I needed to find ski teachers for. And I went to the ski school I was working for and said, I need to book 7 teachers to execute these lessons. Can I have this person, this person, this person, this person, this person? And I was told, you don't decide who does what work. I will decide who does the work. And I was like, all right, but I'm about to give you 10 grand's worth of money, of which you pay me fuck all for. Yeah. I didn't get a commission. I didn't get a bonus. I didn't get a pat on the back. I was bringing him from my crutches 10 grand of business. So I'm the customer in the scenario. I'm his customer. I wasn't employed by him. And then he treats his customer in a way that you can't have the ski teachers you want. I'll give you the ski teachers. And again, this goes back to the snow camp's philosophy is I will match you with a ski teacher, which I will believe will work best with you, rather than you just getting somebody off the ski school list who could be an absolute numpty or an absolute superstar. It's pot luck. When you walk into the ski school, it's pot luck what you get. And that was another thing I didn't like, that was a motivator to start snow camps, was to give people the best person to help them with their skiing or with their après or whatever it be. Because if someone says to me, Andy, we're interested in skiing from hut to hut, having a drink in every hut, and then going to après for 3 hours afterwards, and I give them an animal that's going to go and do that, who wants to go drinking and to après. Yeah. But if they say we want 5 days, 4 hours a day of technical teaching, well, I'll go and get Mr. Technical Teacher and I'll give them to them. You know what I mean? So they were kind of the reasons to start the winter business.
So those instructors kind of freelance for you, or how does that work?
So what I did is because of that situation where I was told the customer spending 10 grand couldn't request certain teachers, that annoyed me quite a bit from the ski school owner I was working for at the time. And also the fact that after being on crutches for about 9 months at the time, it would have been 9 or 10 months, his ski school was busy and he was annoyed that I wasn't ready to start at the beginning of the ski season working. And I said, I think I'll be 6 weeks late until I'm back. So I'll start kind of middle of Feb, let's say. And it got to the middle of Feb and I'd been to the hospital for another checkup. And I said, I can't start. I can't ski because I still can't walk. To which his response was, it's all in your head. There's nothing wrong with you. It's in your head. And I was like, really? Okay. The fact I can't walk is in my head, is it? And trust me, over the months, I actually thought it might have been in my head, but it most certainly wasn't. And later on down the line with my injury, we found out why I couldn't walk. So I couldn't believe that he would turn around to somebody who'd just been told by the hospital for about the 7th time, 6 more weeks, 6 more weeks, 6 more weeks, that it was all in my head. And he compared me to a friend of his in the Alberg who was in his 70s. He said he went in for an operation on Monday. He was skiing on Friday. Well, your friend's just been given a new knee. I didn't have a new knee, you know. If I'd had a knee replacement, I probably would have been fit in the time scale that they said I would be fit. So they were the things that kind of pushed me to start snow camps. So to go back to your question, are the ski teachers freelance? No, the ski teachers all work for one or another ski school, of which I went to with the concept of Snow Camps Europe and said, I'm thinking of setting this up. I need to be able to come to you and say, I would like this kind of ski teacher for this client. Are you prepared to work with me in that way? To which they said, yes, because why wouldn't they? I'm going to bring them thousands and thousands of euros of business. So I started a partnership with a different ski school when I thought I would then be on my skis again for the next winter, but it ended up that I wasn't skiing that winter. So all of the work went to other ski teachers within that ski school. But because of the agreement we had, I could ring up and say, I've got some guests next week. Can I please have Jay? Can I please have Alex? Can I please have this person or that person? And I pretty much got who I wanted when I wanted them, because it goes back to I am their customer and they're happy to keep their customer happy, where the other guy just treated the customers like shit.
Got it. So when at the time you had the accident, you had just been working at the ski school. You hadn't started the business.
No.
And
I was working for the ski school.
And what was that like? How many winters in was the accident?
7? No, not 7. 2012. 6 years in. End of the 6th season. No.
Okay,
Yeah.
so at that point you were loving the winters, making money in the summers, figuring it all out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had the accident.
I did.
And were you like, what
In pain.
am I going to do?
Well, yeah, yes and no. I think it was
So
the
this is
7th.
a ski accident just out of
Yeah,
nowhere.
yeah. I was training. I decided I was going to try and do my level 4 qualification, which I think I would have been 40, 45, 46, 40. No, I would have been 47. I was 47. So to do it at 47 is a bit of a tall order anyway. You've got to be extremely fit. I'd spent all of that summer on the run up to the accident in the gym, getting fit, because you had to do a pre-exam, and it's changed slightly now. But part of the pre-exam is you had to do a giant slalom race, and that giant slalom race is similar to something called the Euro test, which is part of the level 4 exam, and you are racing to get within a 12% time of the current world champion. So at the time, the current world champion was Marcel Hirscher. So I would have had to have raced a giant slalom race and got within 12% of the time he would have raced that course.
So the idea is you go up the levels and then you get paid more, or you get higher quality
You get paid
clients?
more, you should get better quality guests.
Is
There
it
is
an
a
international thing?
So the level 3 is internationally recognised. The level 4 is also internationally recognised. There's not a massive difference in what you can do with the different licenses, but it's just,
Is that the highest level?
yeah, it's the highest level, and it's considered as one of the highest levels out of the European countries. Although they all argue that they've all got the best level 4.
So it's
The
like
point,
someone training an Olympic ski team, they would have that level or something.
nah, because ski instruction versus coaching is different qualifications. It's just, what can you
Okay. But someone in
most instructing jobs have levels,
yeah.
and
But why did you want to do it? For a personal sense of
yeah,
achievement, or
personal achievement really, because I had no other aspirations to do anything other than teach skiing. It was personal achievement and to prove to myself that I could do it. But I always knew that the race part of it would be the difficult part because of my age, my fitness, and also the fact that you can't go as fast as you could when you were 21. So anyway, cut a long story short, on the 17th of May, around about 10 a.m., we were practicing. I was on a race training course to get me ready for that race. It snowed. It snowed about 5 or 6 centimeters onto the piste, and the racetrack hadn't been prepared. So we were practicing starts. So all we were doing was doing a push off to get as much speed as possible from the start. Do one turn, two turns, and then stop. And on the first turn of the third start, I caught my outside ski in some soft snow, and it spun me around. And that resulted in me going down lower than my knee joint, and my leg, basically the world had to move or my leg had to break, and my leg broke because to move the world would have been pretty fucking aggressive. So my lower leg shattered with the pressure from my upper leg. So my knee joint basically exploded on the top of the tibia plateau, or the tibia head. And I also cracked the femur, I think it was, or the fibia. Fibia. The tibia plateau had shattered and the fibia had cracked. And that was the accident. I went to hospital. They said I had to have an operation. I said I didn't want to have an operation because I knew that they were very operation happy in ZLMZ. And
this was like immediate ski mobile to a hospital. It was like,
yeah. When I got there, it took about an hour and a half to get me there. And when I got there, they said, "Why didn't you come in a helicopter?" And I was like, "Well, you tell me," because I would have been there in 7 minutes in the helicopter. And apparently, the injury warranted a helicopter. But they stuck me on a skidoo. They took me down 2 lifts. They sat me in a room for half an hour while we waited for an ambulance to come.
And you were just in excruciating pain.
I wasn't in that much pain, to be honest. Very surprising. I thought that what if you smashed your knee up skiing, that you'd be screaming like a baby. And I knew I'd done something, but I wasn't in that much pain.
But you'd known you just couldn't, like you couldn't get up. You couldn't.
Yeah, well, when I fell over, I attempted to get up to move my ski out of the track because I knew someone else would be coming down. And then one of the coaches got to me and said, "What have you done?" And I said, "I don't know. I think I've hurt myself." And I was like, "I think I've hurt my knee." And I had a race suit on, and you could see that my left knee was like a lot larger than my right knee because it had instantly swollen up. And they said, "Oh, do you want to ski down to the Alpine Centre and just have a rest?" And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Get me on my feet and put my skis on." And the minute they stood me up and I put any weight on my left leg, I was like, "Whoa, I'm not standing on that," because that then did hurt. So yeah, the skidoo down 2 lifts. They left me in a room for about half an hour until Laurel and Hardy, the ambulance boys, turned up. They had a problem getting me in the ambulance with a straight leg, so they ended up whacking it against the door a couple of times. It was highly amusing, considering it was smashed to pieces. And yeah, got to hospital and they said, "You have an operation." And I was like, "I don't want one." They said, "You've got to have one." And anyway, so someone called me and said, "What have you done?" I said, I've smashed my tibia plateau. They want to operate. I don't want an operation. And they looked on Google and they said, "You've got to have an operation." So I was like, "All right." So foolishly, I signed the consent form.
Why didn't you want an operation?
Well, you can go into Zell with a cut finger and they'll pin your foot. Yeah, they just want to do operations.
Why?
And I knew that of Zell. So I thought, put it in a plaster, give it 6 weeks and we'll be fine. I didn't realize it was an injury that had to be pinned. So I signed the consent form and they did the operation. I should have actually been told from the hospital, this is what's wrong. This is what needs to be done. You need to understand your options. One is we can do it here and now, or you could find a knee specialist and have it done somewhere else. But they didn't give me any of this information because they wanted the job. They wanted the payout from the insurance firm. And I got wheeled down into theatre, and before you knew it, a couple of hours later, I'm in a hospital bed. My legs all bandaged up. I've got 3 different tubes coming out of it with different liquids. And I've had my knee reconstructed, a plate and 8 screws put in it. Typical recovery from this kind of injury: 6 weeks non-weight bearing on crutches, 6 week partial weight bearing on crutches, walking after 12 weeks, back to sport after 6 months. So all of that tied in for a return to skiing by the middle of December. That was all good.
Oh, this was the end of the season?
This was May. I mean, June, July, August, September, October, November, December would have been 7 months.
Okay. So you were thinking, not the worst, I'm just going to have to lay low over summer.
Yeah.
And I won't be able to work.
But even it was May, my summer would have started second week of June, probably doing the tour guiding. So I could have actually probably gone back to work after 12 weeks. So I could have worked part of the summer because I was supposed to be walking after 12 weeks. And if you can walk, then you can you can take people on a bus to a waterfall. So I actually thought this isn't going to be too bad. 12 weeks on crutches and then months of rehab, go to the gym. But after the first 6 weeks, I started to put weight on it, partial weight bearing, got to 12 weeks, couldn't get off the crutches, couldn't walk. I'd been going to rehab, I'd been going to the gym, I'd been doing everything they told me to do. Went back to the hospital at 12 weeks. Why are you still on crutches? Because I can't walk without them. X-rayed me, nothing wrong with it. You're not trying hard enough, go and do more work. So I went and did more work. I was going to the gym 5 times a week. I was going to physio twice a week. I was doing stuff at home. And 6 more weeks passed, went to another checkup at the hospital, literally screamed out, "Why are you on crutches? Get off the crutches, leave the crutches at home. You'll never walk if you keep on the crutches." And I was like, "But I can't walk. My knee doesn't want me to walk. If I try to walk, I'll fall over." So they made me try and walk in the hospital. That's perfect, fine, carry on. Don't use the crutches. 3 days later, fell over in the street, back in hospital, MRI. Couldn't really tell what I'd done because the metalwork interferes with the MRI. So they kept saying, just come back every 6 weeks. You're not trying. Got to a year, and they said, right, we're going to take the screws out. It's going to feel fantastic.
And what were you able to work in that time?
Nope, couldn't work at all because I couldn't walk.
So you were like, I've just got to keep trying to get better.
Yeah, more physio, more going to the gym, which is what I did.
Were you getting depressed or worried about it?
I wouldn't say I was getting depressed, but it wasn't good. I was getting pissed off because it wasn't getting better. And every time I went to the hospital, they told me it was me and not my leg. And I kept saying, no, there's got to be something wrong because I'm doing everything and more than you're telling me to do and that the physio is telling me to do.
Were you bored in that time?
Bored?
If you couldn't work?
No, not really. Kept myself occupied. I started making videos. I had, at the time, there was 2 dogs in the house. So I had to take one dog for a walk with one crutch, come back, get the other dog, take that dog for a walk, then do my physio or go to the gym, then take 2 dogs out again one at a time. Then I started making some videos. I wrote some ebooks.
What ebooks?
Just skiing ebooks, but ebooks that I then turned into videos. So
that's where the idea to make content came from. You just didn't have much to do.
Yeah. So why I was off, and I ended up being off for 18 months, best part of 18 months, if not more. I was watching watching stuff on YouTube, like watching people's videos about this, that, and the other. And I started watching a few about content creation, how to build a YouTube channel, how to make videos, how to get ebooks out there, how to build email lists, and all the normal stuff. And we'd already started the business because the start of the business coincided with me breaking my leg. And as we were going into the next winter with the business, I was like, right, I need to build an email database. How can I do that? I'll give away ebooks. That'll get me email addresses. Then I was like, right, I'll make videos. That'll get us.
Where did you give away the ebooks?
Online, via the website, via Facebook groups. Here is a free ebook about skiing. Who wants it? Go to a landing page, put in your email address, download the book. So I learned how to do all that.
And what would they say? How to ski 101?
No, there was things like 10 ways to save money on your ski holiday, 10 reasons why you should book a ski teacher, how to overcome fear. just
cool.
Something to try and get people's email addresses. And then I learned how to do it.
The idea is that once you had their email, you could attract some of them to come and ski in Kaprun with you.
Yeah, that's what you expect to be able to do, because that's what all of these people tell you is the start of. Get their email address, build a relationship with them via email, and then give them something else for free, then sell them something small, then sell them something big. And for certain products, then you can do it if you've got a very good sales funnel and you know what you're doing. So I just started reading all about that sort of stuff, and I was like, right, let's do some ebooks, let's make some videos. I tinkered with Facebook adverts, see how that worked out. Also launched a t-shirt website just to keep me occupied and see if I could make any money doing that. Didn't really. Sold a few, but again, everything's about traffic, isn't it? If you can't get traffic to somewhere, you've got no chance of selling anything. And it's the same with the Snow Camp's website now. If I wasn't creating 2 to 3 pieces of content a week and putting out posts on Facebook and doing email marketing, etc., we wouldn't be getting bookings, because you've got to get traffic to the website, and that is getting traffic to the website. Yes, you can get organic traffic from Google ranking, and we rank very well in Google for a non-paid website. We don't pay anything to get it up the rankings. And considering
that's how I found you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you found us from a Google search, and as did most of the people who were here in December on the camp, found us via Google search and not via all of the content, which sometimes says, well, should we be doing the content? But then the content helps with the Google search, especially the video content, because YouTube is owned by Google, and if you put something into Google now, not only do you get the normal results, you get video results, and quite often or not will pop up in the video results. Anyway,
who were you doing this with?
On my own, sat there, because at the time the girlfriend was away hiking nearly all of the summer because she was a hiking guide. So I just sat at home, and when I wasn't walking the dogs or doing rehab, I was sat on my computer or watching YouTube.
Okay, but when you're saying we started the business, you just mean you
started the business with the girlfriend at the time,
who you then broke up with.
Yeah, again, I'm not very good at this relationship, am I?
Well, you're one now.
She cheated as well.
Oh no!
I'm obviously not doing something right.
But the one now is going well, right?
I hope so. Yeah. Yeah, seems to be.
Huh. Okay, so she was involved in the business.
Yeah.
And was she helping with...
Only for a short time, only for like the first year maybe, and of which, when you say the first year, it's only a 4 or 5 month window of winter that it operated in. So it was the first full winter. It was quite small. It was nowhere the size it is now.
So how did you think about making content? Was it just all like, okay, I'm going to try different things? How did you think about making the first video and being like, no one's watching this, or whatever? Or you were like, I just have to learn how it works. So
yeah, so I
start somewhere.
I did the ebooks, and I think I did the ebooks because I was reading ebooks, and the ebook thing tied in with sales funnels with emails. So I was learning all about that, and then I started watching someone else on YouTube who built courses and sold courses. And I wasn't really interested in putting courses online for skiing because I don't believe you can learn to ski online. Yeah, there's loads of useful information, but you're not going to learn to ski from an online course. But you could have put a course online that was how to become a ski teacher, and you could have sold that course, teaching people how they can go about getting qualified. But anyway, that didn't really interest me. So one of the people I was watching, I can't remember who it was, said about if you've got one piece of content, make it work over 3 or 4 or 5 different platforms. So can you take a snippet of an ebook and use it as a Facebook post? Can you take that ebook and turn it into a podcast? Can you take that ebook and turn it into a video? So I literally got one of the ebooks and I sat with a video camera in front of me, and I didn't narrate that book, but I delivered it as, hi everyone, if you want to save money on your next ski holiday, here's 10 different ideas. One do this, one do this, one do this. And if you look at it, and this conversation that you and me had about YouTube and making videos, and when is the right time to start posting them on YouTube, it was dreadful. I was as stiff as can be, and it was just crap. But I put it on YouTube. I was like, fuck it. I put it on YouTube. And it got views. And I was like, oh, it's got views. And then it was like, right, how can I make more videos that will get more views that could lead to people making a purchasing decision to come and ski in Austria? So I just started then we made some skiing. Once I was back on my skis, we made some skiing content, just some 30-second things about this is a snowplow, this is a snowplow turn, this is a basic parallel turn. And we were doing a few different things, different video updates and whatever. And then started to do a snow report. So I literally one day was in Zellamzee and it was really warm. And I filmed just on my phone there and then I went, hi, it's Andy from Snow Camp Europe with this week's snow report from Zellamzee. It's currently 12 degrees. It's the 18th of December. The snow's not very good. Blah, 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 blah. Up on the glacier it is, isn't it? And I got it home and I was like, oh, I'll post that onto YouTube. So I posted it onto YouTube, shared it on Facebook, and that started the weekly snow report, which goes out every Wednesday. So I'd literally just edited one before we started to record this podcast. And the snow report started to go out every Wednesday, and that started to get some serious traffic. And then I got into lives on Facebook because of COVID. Because COVID was about to happen, or was happening, and everybody was trying to find out if Austria was going to close down in March 2000 and, or was it 2020? So I was walking the dog each morning of the week running up to lockdown, and I started to go live. And again, if you go back and look at the first lives I did, they were dreadful, but the information was quite good. And then they just got better and better.
What are you saying? Just like, this is the word in Austria.
Yeah, basically, this is what's going on in Austria. With people are asking, is Austria about to close because France have said they are? And on the first day, it was like, no, Austria's not about to close. There currently isn't that many cases of COVID, la, la, la. And by the end of that week, it had all exploded in Ischgl and Austria was closing. So I literally did 7 days of the build up to COVID. Then what I did is I carried on through COVID, still bringing people updates pretty much every day live while I was walking the dog. And then through the first lockdown, then as we were coming up, everyone's interest was, as we were coming up to the next winter, would Austria open? Would Austria open? So I carried on with the updates. I broke the news that Austria wasn't going to open to tourism. Literally seconds after the Austrian government announced it on the TV, I was sat next to the TV live on Facebook going, right, people, I'm telling you before the BBC or the ITV, because it's 10 minutes till the news comes on, that we ain't going to open. You're not coming on a holiday to Austria. You might as well just pack your skis back up and stick them in the shed. And I carried on through the whole of lockdown 2 or winter season, because we could ski but no one could come in, and I just kept that going, and that kind of got a lot of attention for the Facebook page, got a lot of attention to the website, and it's paid dividends in a way of bookings since COVID.
And what kind of audience were you getting?
In the way numbers,
or just who were the people?
Just anybody in the UK that was wanting to go skiing. Or people, even people in Germany, people over the border in Germany saying, are we able to get in? What's the latest? Do we need a mask? Do we need this? Do we need the other? I got myself on the Chinese global television news network as kind of the reporter for Austria when we were going into the 2021 winter, which was the winter where we opened, but we didn't open.
Okay, because it's like you're an English speaker. Yeah, kind of reporting from
Austria. So predominantly an English audience, but also a lot of Austrians, a lot of Germans, a lot of people from other European countries who would normally come skiing in Austria. So
so it was really like you were delivering something that they needed to hear, or how much of it was like your personality and people like, I love tuning into this guy.
I think people, they wanted to know the most up-to-date and accurate information, and there was so much BS and false information being put out there that people liked that it was honest and that it was fact. It wasn't made up. It wasn't me going, oh, I think the that Austria's going to open tomorrow. No, I was going, no, we're not. The facts are, this has been said, that's what they'll do, because that's what the Austrians do. If they're told to do something, they do it. So when I said, you are not coming to Austria on holiday, they knew that it was the truth, not, oh, I don't think you're going to be able to come because,
and you were able to do that even though obviously that's not good for your business, and you wish, was there a part of you that was like, oh, I don't want to tell people because I want to
No,
keep the
because
hope?
as I saw it, and as I saw it the day that it was announced that we were going into lockdown and that everyone was going to have to leave and no flights were going to come in on the Saturday, I think it was the 15th or 16th of March. I actually woke up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet, and I looked at my phone and I saw something that said Austria was going into lockdown. And I went live at about 20 past 3 in the morning, like half asleep, half awake, half panicking because we were about to lose the season. I had a group coming out. I had a group out that week that needed to get back to England. I had a group coming out in 2 weeks, and I was going like shit. I'm gonna have to refund everybody. How much work is that going to involve? How much money are we going to lose? How long's the lockdown going to last? What we're going to do in the summer? All these things are going through my head, and I went live and said, "Listen, folks, it's been announced half an hour ago, 3 o'clock in the morning. The Austrian government have just said, as of Sunday, Austria's closed. We're all we're all out of work. I haven't got a clue how I'm going to pay the bills next month. Blah 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 blah." And again, I think people liked the fact that it was quite honest, and all the way through the COVID thing, everything was honest. It was factual, and I was affected by it. I couldn't work. I barely worked in a year. I barely worked in a year and a half, even. But as I said, it actually did the business the world of good, because so many people got to know who I was and who Snow Camps Europe was. The bookings last year, I'd say 50% of them were from people who'd watched content. The lady I'm skiing with this week, she watches content. Most of the people on the camps who haven't found us via Google search have found us via content. And whether it be the weekly snow report or the COVID stuff.
And I guess they feel like they can really trust you.
Yeah. And this goes back to the basics of all of this social media stuff, is if people like you, trust you, and kind of resonate with you, you've got a good chance of being able to sell them something.
So was this kind of straight after you came back from your knee?
Yeah. So
how did the knee get better in the end? You had to have another operation.
Yeah. So I was, at the end of the year, they said, we'll take the screws out. It's going to feel fantastic. It'll be amazing. You'll be able to do everything that you haven't been able to do in the last year. So I was like, oh, I'll be able to walk. That'd be good. Always wanted to be able to walk. And I said to them, could you put a camera inside and check everything else is fine, like all the other bits that you don't see when you take screws out? And they were like, yeah, no problem. Of course we'll do that. Of course we will. So I had the screws out. Maybe had a camera in my knee. Maybe didn't. I was asleep. And they said, right, 6 weeks back on crutches, and then you'll be running around like a spring chicken. And I was like, cracking. So back to physio, hydrotherapy, physiotherapy, gym. 6 weeks later, could I walk? What a buggery. Still didn't work. What do we do next, doctor? Another 6 weeks, another 6 weeks, another 6 weeks. Got to around October time. So May, June, July, August, September, October, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 months after the accident. And there was a lady who worked for the same ski school as me, or the ski school I had worked for. She'd been into Zell, and they said she'd ruptured her cruciate ligament and she needed to be on crutches and blah, blah, blah. And she wanted a second opinion. So she went to another doctor in Kitzbühel who said, why aren't you on crutches? And she said, because Zell told me not to be on crutches. I don't need them. And he said, you've got a broken leg. And she was like, I've ruptured my ACL. He said, yes, but you've also got a broken bone. They hadn't seen that she had a broken bone. I said, give me the name and number of this doctor in Kitzbühel and I'll go and see him. And I went in, and he's quite a strange guy. He's kind of very unique in his approach. And he said, what do you want? And I said, well, I broke my leg May 2017. I said, I've had the screws out. I said, I still can't walk. I've barely been able to walk in a year and a half. I'd like to be able to walk. I'd like to know what's wrong with my knee. And he literally said, take your trousers off, take your socks off. Stood in front of him with my legs next to each other. And then I had to stand with my legs together, stand with my legs apart, and I had to bend my legs. And he said, okay, there's one of two things wrong with your knee. He not even examined me, not touched my knee. He said, the lateral bands are so stretched that you've got no stability, or the bone isn't in the right place. So the bone that they rebuilt wasn't rebuilt at the right height, or maybe it had moved. Shouldn't have, because it was screwed in, but maybe. So with that, he took an x-ray, and it was the first time anyone had x-rayed from the back of the knee. All of the doctors in the other hospital had done it from the front and the side, and always said it looked perfect. He took it from the back of the knee, and I was in like a holding room, and he was in his office, and he could see the x-ray on his screen. And then in the x-ray room, there was another screen, and he just pointed at the x-ray room and said, go and look at the screen. And I went in and looked at the screen, and I could see that the bone wasn't in the right bloody place. Never mind him having to show me or tell me. It was blatantly obvious when you saw it from the angle from the back of the knee. It was entirely different to the other knee. So he said, it's in the wrong place. You've got two choices. He said, you can stop skiing, start just being a bike guide if you want to be outside in the mountains. He said, or you can ski with it and you'll destroy it and you'll need a new knee. And I was like, well, I can't ski because I can't walk. So I said, what are my options? He said, well, I can chop the bone off, move it up, re-screw it in. And I was like, all right then. So about 2 or 3 weeks later, I had another operation. He sliced my leg open. He sawed the bone off. He moved it up a centimetre because it was a centimetre too low. Same recovery time, 6 weeks no weight bearing, 6 weeks partial weight bearing, 12 weeks walking without crutches, 6 months back to sport. However, 7 weeks later, I was walking. 17 weeks later, I was skiing.
Wow.
If the bone had been in the right place a year and a half before, I wouldn't have had a problem, but it wasn't.
So did you talk to the original doctor?
I have never seen the original doctor ever since the first operation. I did try to sue them via the Austrian government, but it was kicked out by 2 industry experts who were paid by the hospital's insurance company to be impartial advisors. And because I haven't got the money to go and get a lawyer and take on their insurance company, I, after 3.5, 4 years of trying, gave up. Which, it's not very like me to give up on something, but I would have had to have thousands and thousands and thousands to take it to court. And on the chance that I lost, I would have lost everything and probably had to pay court costs. So I wasn't in a situation, and I'm still not in a situation where I could justify the money, to be honest, which is a pain in the arse, really, because I think we've got an extremely strong case.
Was everything covered by insurance?
It was covered by the health service over here, because I was insured under the health service, but I didn't have an insurance policy that paid me any kind of damages or anything.
Okay.
Where if I'd had a personal accident insurance, I probably would have come out with about 150 grand, which then would have meant I could sue the hospital. But I didn't at that time. I didn't have personal accident insurance. I thought I did. I thought I had 2 insurances that would cover me, but neither of them did actually cover me for what I'd done. They only covered me for third-party liability as a ski instructor, which obviously you need that insurance. But I also thought that the professional ski instructor insurance would have covered a ski instructor if he had an accident skiing, but they don't.
Do you have that now?
I do. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So that was that. Where were we? So we were that was how the knee then got better and I started skiing. I started skiing, I think, in the February of 2020, would it be?
Oh no. So you only had 1 month
Yeah,
back and then COVID started.
yeah. So I started skiing maybe the middle of January. Well, so, yeah, let's say February. Start of February 2020. And I just skied a little bit to get the feeling back and to make sure I could do it. Then I did a few lessons.
Were you terrified to get back into it, or you were
Yeah, very
ready?
apprehensive, almost in tears, putting my skis on for the first time because I didn't know what to expect. But I did what I tell other people that they should do. As I went right back to the beginning and started again, just basic sliding, snowplow turns. Spent about four mornings on a flat slope, on a real flat nursery slope, and just practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. Then went up onto the glacier into slightly more steeper terrain and practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced, and just built my confidence back up and belief in my leg, that my leg would hold. And then it just came. It just the ability was still there, so it came back. But my head obviously was holding some things back, like speed. Um, but then,
So you were kind of built, because when I asked you about what you did in that time where you couldn't ski or work,
yeah,
you talked about how it was a really dark time, but you were able to chip
well, it
away
was
at your
yeah.
business.
The bad bits were like I didn't know I wasn't getting any better because I was doing everything I was being told to do and more. And it was like, why is this not getting better? There has to be something wrong. There has to be something wrong. And they were just telling me it was fine until the other doctor told me it wasn't. You know. And at that time, I was like, I was so relieved that there was something wrong, but I was so pissed off that I was about to have a third operation, which I had to pay for because it was with a private surgeon rather than the monkeys down at the chop shop in Salem City. Um,
Oh
so
yeah,
I was
that's what I was gonna. That's what I was asking if insurance covered the other doctor as well, but it didn't.
no, I had to pay for it. 4.5 grand, I think it was. Yeah, 4.5 grand, I think. And all of these things leading up to COVID, and that was like, well, I was kind of like, shit. I've just spent all this money, and now how am I going to live? Because we're not able to work. Now, obviously, it came out that the government then gave us bits of compensation, and we got our unemployment benefit and things like that. But again, it wasn't enough. Wasn't enough. So yeah, and again during my knee, I was all the way through the knee, and then me going back onto skis. That was ideal times to make content. Look, I'm skiing again after 18 months. If I can do it, so can you. A lot of my rehab had been kind of documented on my own Instagram. So actually, it's funny enough, literally in between us recording part one of this and part two, I was up on the glacier one day, and a young lad, he must have been about 21, 22, he came up to me and went, "You're the guy with the broken knee." And I was like, "Yeah." He went, "I followed your rehab on Instagram." And I was like, "Oh, cool." Like, however many years ago now, and he still remembers. And then he recognized me in the Alpine Centre. Yeah, I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Hopefully it helped. Have you ever hurt yourself? Uh,
So what? So what was the motivation behind documenting that? It was something to help keep you going, and you didn't
um,
really mind who was
it was
watching.
I was videoing myself trying to do certain exercises and trying to do certain lifts in the gym, and I wanted a diary almost of like how it was progressing, even though it was progressing very slowly up until that last operation when it started to progress very quickly. And I made a video. I remember making a video on week 7 where it was like, right, 7 weeks later, look at me walking across the living room of the house. I wasn't able to do it for 18 months, and after 7 weeks, I can walk again without crutches. Wow. And then I was making pictures of me walking upstairs, which I'd not been able to do. I still at times have problems now walking downstairs. Walking up isn't really a problem anymore. So
Okay.
I wanted for myself to document the change, And I was like, oh, I'll put them on. I'll put them on Instagram. If anyone looks at them, they look at them. I wasn't putting them on there going, look, this is rehab. This is how you have to do it. This is what we blah blah blah. It wasn't that. It was just, here I am in the gym again, trying to get my leg to work. Here
And
I
you
am in the
weren't,
gym again, and it still doesn't work.
and you weren't bothered by the numbers at all.
No, I wasn't doing that to see how many people would watch a video or anything like that, because I don't think that many people did watch videos. It was just, I had nothing else to put on Instagram. What else did I have to put on Instagram? The inside of the bleeding house or the gym. That was it. There's only 4 walls on the house. They all look the same.
Okay. So was COVID the most worried you've been about your financial situation through like this whole story? Or?
Yeah, probably because COVID coincided with that second relationship breaking up, and that had financial implications because by that time, obviously my apartment that I bought when I moved over here, I still had that. I'd bought a second apartment with that girlfriend that we were renting out, and we'd gone and bought a massive house.
Why
So
was
when we
that?
broke up, we had to sort out the house and we had to sort out the rental apartment. So
Why'd you
that
buy a massive house
just outside of Kaprun.
to live in?
Yeah.
And then you
To
rented
live
out the
in
other
to
two
live in
properties.
part to live in part of it and to rent part of it, to allow us to also rent my apartment out as well. So we had three properties up for rental, and one we lived within that property. But we only had it for a year and a half, and then she wanted to retain the house, so I wanted to retain the second apartment, and then there was a financial agreement that had to be made, and she had to give me some money. I had to give her a lot more than she gave me. So I went into COVID with not a great deal of money in the bank. I'd retained a rental apartment. However, I couldn't rent it for the best part of a year. So when COVID happened and it was like, right, I've not got a lot in the bank. I've got to pay the running costs of where I live. I've got to pay the running costs of downstairs, which I can't rent.
What, so you stayed in the house?
No, I moved back to my apartment. She kept the
Oh,
house. I moved back to my apartment and I retained the rental apartment. The rental apartment's on a mortgage. So going into COVID, I had to sit down and go, right, I now need to pay the mortgage for downstairs. I'm paying my bills for upstairs, run my car, feed myself, feed the dog. And it doesn't look like we're going to be going to work anytime soon. So that was pretty scary.
and you couldn't get a
So
tenant?
couldn't rent anything during COVID.
You weren't allowed?
No. And as everybody left, anyone that would have been looking for a long-term rental, they'd all left because they left to go back home because of COVID to other countries. So it ended up that sat empty. Now, luckily, the February had been quite good on rental. So the February had left me, I think it was enough for 5 months worth of mortgage and bills. So we went in March the 15th. So April, May, June, July, August. I was covered till August, right? So as we got to the end of lockdown 1, it was obvious that there was not going to be any tours. There was not going to be any tourism in Austria that summer, and therefore I didn't have a job. So I'd cancelled pretty much every direct debit going out of my bank in the hope I could, with what was in my bank and what was going to come in through the unemployment benefit, I would be able to pay everything. And I said to a friend, I'm going to take my car off the road, cancel the insurance, leave it in the garage, and I'll just do everything on my bike this summer because it will save me €160 a month. And he mentioned that to a couple of other friends, who the next day saw an advert from a tourism office in a village in the next valley, and they were looking for a tenant to run what looked like a snack station on a mountain with some other facilities. But it was all in German and I didn't really understand it. But they sent it to me saying maybe this is something for you because they knew I'd worked in hospitality before. So I was like, well, at the minute, anything that's going to pay more than the dole, albeit it's not called the dole here, it's called something else, is going to be better than being on the dole. So I emailed this lady at the tourism office about this place. I didn't really understand what she was asking. And she came straight back and said, do you want to come and see me tomorrow? So I was like, okay, I'll come and see you tomorrow before I take my car off the road. And I went and saw her, and she drove me up to this place, which is it's an old village called Bad Fusch above the village of Fusch, which is quite a famous village in Austria because it's the start of the road that goes to Italy. And there was this wooden structure which is pretty much nothing more than a shack, and it had a roof attached to it, and it was all wrapped up in green sheets, tarpaulin, and you couldn't really see anything. And the place hadn't been touched all winter. We'd come into the spring, all the leaves were still on the ground, everything was covered in leaves or snow. And we opened it, the electricity wasn't turned on, so she couldn't turn the lights on, but I turned the torch on my phone and I looked at it, and I could see like a countertop, and there was an old coffee machine in there. And I was like, so what happens? Like, what goes on here? She said, oh, it's just a snack bar for people who are walking past on their mountain bikes or coming to use this facility, which was called a knipe. I didn't know what a knipe was at the time. So I was like, right, so what is it? It's like Würstel, so sausages, toasted sandwiches, soup, kind of just snacks. She was, yeah, oh, okay. So I was like, right, okay. So I was like, right, coffee machine's there. I could put a toaster machine there. I could put a water machine there to heat up water. I could do this. There was a fridge. There was a couple of drinks fridges. I was like, oh. I said, she said, so do you want to run it? And I was like, well, I said, I need to know a little bit more information. Like, how many customers did they have a day last year? How often did they have to close due to the weather? Is there any chance you can get the person who ran it to actually tell us how much he took? Maybe you understand he doesn't want to discard that. He doesn't want to disclose that information, maybe because he was fiddling the books, or maybe he, for whatever reason, he doesn't want to tell us. So anyway, she went away with a load of questions to ask the person who looked after it the year before.
Why weren't they doing it anymore?
Because their job, the previous year, their job was purely in the winter, but because of COVID, they had to go back to their proper job early, which meant they couldn't do it. And the person who'd run it for the 14 years before that had retired. So she went away with a big long list of questions that I wanted answering. And I went away going, I don't even know what this is. I can't really see it. It's wrapped up in green sheets. So I went down and I called a friend of mine who I used to do the tours with. He used to be the coach driver. And I said, Johnny, I said, do you want to come up to Bad Fusch with me and have a look at this place that I've been offered? And I explained what I knew about it. And he even said, where's Bad Fusch? Now, this guy's been a tour guide for 10 years in Austria, and he didn't know where Bad Fusch was, and neither did I. So I said, it's up above Fusch. Meet me in Fusch. We'll drive up in one car on Saturday. And in the meantime, we both Googled Bad Fusch, and we read about what this village was. And it used to be an old village with 9 hotels, 14 springs running out of the mountain. And Germans used to go there on holiday to bathe in the water because their waters have got different healing properties, high in minerals, nutrients, and all this stuff. And it was a proper big village in between the First and Second World War. After the Second World War, the village of Fusch down in the valley started to develop, and Bad Fusch went into decline. The tourism office of Salzburg invested 750,000 euros in this Kneipe facility, which coincided with what used to be an ice cream kiosk being brought from the Grossglockner Road to service the people in the Kneipe facility, to sell them ice creams, toast, and sausages, which is what I'd been to see. So we went up and we pulled back the tarpaulin to discover there was tables and chairs and signs and bins and all sorts of stuff that kind of gave us a bit of a clearer picture of what went on there in the summer. And then we looked around the gardens and we found out what this Kneipe facility was. And the Kneipe facility is basically cold hydrotherapy. Sebastian Kneipe was, I think he was a priest or a monk or something. He discovered how cold water treatment can rejuvenate the body, can help with varicose veins, help with headaches. It activates the central nervous system, and it's actually prescribed treatment in many countries. And they put this area in that had been built that was fed by the cold water springs. So it was an outdoor hydrotherapy pool area. So we were like, okay, so people must come up here to use these pools. People must come past on their mountain bikes, and people must come hiking. How many toasted sandwiches do we need to sell a week to pay both of us as much, if not more, than the dole? That was our business plan, right? So we went back to the woman at the tourism office and said, like, what answers have you got? Oh, some days he saw 2 people, some days he saw 25 people, but he's not too sure. Right? And it was very woolly, very, very woolly. The guy obviously didn't want to give us any information because he may have made a load of money and put it in his pocket. Maybe he made no money. Who knows? Right? So we were like, right, let's give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? We don't make as much as the dole and we haven't got any money. Or we make more than the dole and we can get through the summer. So we took it on. We replicated his menu. Literally just.
And this woman was like the landlord.
Yeah, so it's owned, the building is owned by the tourism office, and the Knipe facility is owned by the tourism office and the village of Fusch. So,
and she was a representative.
Yeah, she's like, she runs the tourism office. So we were like, yeah, we'll take it on, we'll give it a go. Get us a copy of his menu. We copied his menu. We went and bought the food that was needed for his menu. We went and bought beer and juice and fizzy pop drinks and stuff, whatever. And we opened. And we kind of, on some days, would sit there doing absolutely nothing. And on some days, we'd see some people and we'd sell some sandwiches and some sausages and we'd sell a coffee and whatever. But there was a big difference in what we were doing to what they'd done previously. And that was we were offering a good level of service. And we were English. Now, the English bit actually was seen as a negative at first because everybody from the village of Fusch and Brook were like, 2 English guys in Bad Fusch. What do they know? How are they going to run a mountain hut? It's going to be terrible. It's not going to work. It's a joke. The tourism office are a joke. They're putting these 2 English guys to serve traditional Austrian food kind of thing. But what they didn't realise is that when we got in there, the coffee machine that they had was broke. So we got rid of that. We asked her to get us a different coffee machine. We got a very good, like, proper espresso coffee machine. I'd worked in coffee before. I know how to foam milk like Austrians don't. So the minute people came up, and it became very apparent that all the locals were coming up in the afternoons, and they were literally sitting down and saying, do you have any cake? And we were saying, we've got chocolate brownies, because Johnny makes a mean chocolate brownie. So instead of having apple strudel or chocolate cake or all of these other Austrian typical cakes, we said, we're going to have chocolate brownies. So they would come up from the village, predominantly the grandparents, the older people. Do you have any cake? We've got chocolate brownie. They'd look at it and go, oh, it's Kinder cake, right? It's for the kids. It's like, well, do you want it or not? Although we didn't say it in that way. It's like, well, this is our cake. Would you like to try a slice? And they'd be like, yeah, right, we want a cappuccino and we want a slice of cake. And they would get the cake and they would bite into the cake and you could see their faces go like, fucking hell, that tastes nice. And then they'd get their coffee, they'd put the spoon in the coffee and be like, the spoon can stand up in the milk. The milk is foamed so thick. And then they'll taste the coffee, and we sourced a very good coffee that was locally roasted. So it's obviously it's from North America, but it's roasted in a roastery outside LMZ. So they would see the coffee, they would feel the texture of the milk, they would taste the cake, they would drink the coffee, and then go, whoa, where's this coffee from? And we say, it's from South Feldon, from Family Shaft. And they'll be like, really? And we're like, yeah, we only want to use local produce. So that would get us into a conversation of our cheese is from a farm in LMZ, as is our bacon. Our sausages are from the Hotel and National Park. Our milk is from Salzburg land. Because they're used to a lot of these places just serving supermarket crap. Okay? Because it's the cheapest.
And were they happy to pay more? Presumably you had to charge more. At this
time, we weren't charging a great deal. At this time, we'd replicated his prices, and we weren't making a massive profit on anything really. So The fact was they were amazed at the quality of the coffee and that this kid's cake tasted so good, which then led to them saying, can we pay and can we have 4 pieces of cake to take with us for the grandkids, right? And this happened for 2 or 3 weeks until literally every grandparent had been up. And the minute 2 came up, they went and told people, because they're all mouthpieces in these little villages. Everybody knows everyone's everyone knows everyone's business. Everyone knows everything about what's going on in the village. So they would go down, and more people would come, and more people would come, and then their kids came. So the parents of the grandkids would come up. Oh, the grandparents are up, and they said that your cake's really good. Could we have a cake and a coffee? And we weren't selling much of the food to them. We were selling all the food to some, say, tourists, to some Austrians who were unable to go out for the day, because Austrians were allowed out during that COVID summer. And then as the pattern developed of we were being checked out by literally everybody within the 2 villages, after they'd been and had coffee and cake, they then came back as a family, and they had a cheese board or a meat board or a cheese and meat board. They'd have a soup, they'd have one of our salads, and everything was presented nicely. Service was good from Johnny. We'd cleaned the place up, we'd made a few changes, and they were like, oh, the English guys can actually do some good. Then we decided to bring a barbecue up from my old house, and we put ribs on the menu. And in Austria, if you go on a mountain and you want ribs, you have to pre-order 2 days in advance. We found a rib that we could store in a fridge that had a 3-week shelf life because they were already sous vide. And that meant we could have ribs on the menu every single day, and you could order there and then and get ribs. This blew their mind. The fact that you could go up to Bad Fusch, where they'd typically got hard bread, crap coffee, and mouldy cheese, and they could now get fresh from the farm produce, best quality coffee, top service, and ribs whenever they wanted them. Yeah?
And this was just your pride in, okay, if I'm going to make coffee, then I want to make proper coffee.
Make a good coffee, yeah, because you are judged on your coffee. You know, if you've got good coffee, people will come and buy your cake. Equally, if you've got good cake, they'll come and buy your coffee. If both are crap, they're not going to come back. And then one day we were sat there and I was looking at the menu and I said, hey, Johnny, I said, you know, if we had sliced turkey and we had sliced cheddar cheese with everything else that we've got, we could make a club sandwich. I said, I'm going to buy some turkey, some cheddar cheese tomorrow. Get the blackboard out. And we put on the blackboard, today's special, club sandwich on toasted white or brown bread, served with crisps, as in potato chips, because we didn't have any fryers to make actual French fries. So we had very limited equipment. We had a toaster, we had a toaster machine for like toasted sandwiches, we had a water boiler for sausages, and a hot ring for soup, and a coffee machine. That's all we had, and one household fridge. And we put this club sandwich on the menu, and along with the ribs, they couldn't believe that it wasn't a cheese and ham toast. So our cheese and ham toast sales halved, and our sales of club sandwiches rocketed because they were available, right? And then we tinkered with a few other things. We put a few other bits and bobs on the menu, and we were like, oh, okay. Anyway, end of the summer, we've not really made a fortune, but it's paid us as much as what we would have made on the dole, let's say. And we were ready to go back to tours the next summer if Austria would open. And the tourism office, we had like a end of summer meeting, and she said to us, she said, right, you've got to come back next year. And we were like, well, we've not made any money. We don't really think we want to come back. Or you've got to come back because the whole of the community of Bad Fusch want you back. They said, we can't lose you because you've done so many positives. We also introduced live music nights, which I'd forgotten to say, which was a big hit because in their village, they never had live music nights. So it ended up, we went back for a second year, but we went back on the provision that they would supply us with a proper kitchen. So they would give us a budget to fit it out with a commercial kitchen that I would design, we would install, and they would pay for. And we said, if you give us the money, then we'll come back and do it. If you can't get the money, then we're not going to come back. And within about a week.
Where do they get their money from? Like the local...
From, well, the tourism
government.
office is a business, isn't it? Tourism office is a business. It's funded by tourism tax, and they are allowed to invest their profits however they want. So we were saying, invest some of your money into a kitchen for your facility, for Bad Fusch, which is yours. We will enhance your facility if you give us a kitchen. We will bring you a bigger menu with more products from around the region, a greater offering, a greater experience in your facility that you spent 750,000 on, that sat there for 14 years not really doing anything because nobody knew it was fucking. And we said we will also market it. We will write a marketing plan and we'll market the hell out of the place to get more people up to it once we can have people in Austria. So they agreed to give us the money, and we did. We fitted the kitchen out. We expanded the menu from 1 page to, I said 9 the other day on something, but it's actually a 6-page menu. We put loads of different dishes on there. We had pasta dishes. We had the ribs. Started making our homemade sauces for the ribs. You could have teriyaki ribs. You could have sweet Thai chili sesame ribs, barbecue ribs, craft beer ribs. We had
and you guys just taught yourself how to make all of these things?
Well, again, going back to my experience at Fridays, it was kind of, I kind of knew it. I had to find recipes for sauces and things, but follow a recipe. It's like making a cocktail, yeah. So,
and you just loved the whole process?
Yeah, well, anything new like that I can get my teeth into and I can see is developing, and is developing in the right way and getting the right reaction off the consumers, the customers, etc. And anyway, we opened second year, enhanced menu, enhanced decor. We tidied more stuff up. We've done some other stuff. Johnny actually wrote a book during COVID about the animals in the forest of Bad Fusch. He wrote, illustrated and published a children's book. The people were coming up going, is it true you've written a book about our village? And we're like, yep, because no one's ever written a book about their village before. And it was about the animals that lived in the forest. We've now got, I think he's published 6 books and he's got another 3 ready to go. So there's going to be 9 books. Each of the books are about an experience that Reggie Mouse and his forest friends have in and around Bad Fusch. So the first book was about the humans arriving with a dog in a red car to take over the snack station. Another book is about the water, about the fresh water in the springs. One is about the bees. One is about the cows. One is about the woodland. And they're kind of kids' storybooks with an educational value. So that has helped us market the place. That has helped with subsequent sales because people buy the book in a bookshop, then want to take the kids to where Reggie Mouse has come from.
In German or English?
In both German and English. In year 3, we got them to allow us to create some extra hiking trails in the forest, which was done last year. We've got another hiking trail going in this year. So this will be our 4th summer and our 4th menu. The menu's now got Mexican food. It's got several salads. We're one of the only places on the mountain that offer vegan food. Got a very large vegetarian offering. We're one of, again, few places on the mountain that offer French fries. I know it's not a big thing, but we have French fries, but we season them very differently than everywhere else, so they're very different. The ribs are there. We've got ribs, wings, salads, sandwiches. Still got soups on the go. We actually took sausages off the menu, which is a big deal in Austria. Not to have sausages on your menu.
I was gonna say now I want to come,
you
but
came to Austria, wasn't it?
Not with
you
sausages off the menu. To eat sausages, yes, I like eating.
You came
sausages.
to Austria because you wanted to eat as many sausages in a week as you could. You did, didn't you? I remember. I also remember when you announced that you came to Austria for the sausage. It was quite funny. So yeah, we actually took sausages off the menu, which is a big deal, as you know, because Austria is a big sausage nation, and not to have sausages on your menu is. Yeah. So people now say, "Can we have sausages, and we say, I'm sorry, we don't have them. And they look at us as if we're from Mars, and then they order something else. Yeah.
And so is it making more money now?
Yeah. So year one, the audience was literally the villagers and a few Austrians who were on day visits. Year two, we had tourism within Austria and from Germany, and that was better. Still nowhere near the amount of money you would want to earn to work 7 days a week for 16 weeks. Year three was better again, and we're getting to the kind of numbers that you would be happy with earning for the amount of work it takes. We reckon that year four or year five, as long as nothing stupid like COVID happens again, we should start to get a payback off it, a decent payback. But it is a serious amount of work. We are from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. every day because we have to shop every day. You don't know how the patterns of business are going to be. You can go up on a really hot summer's day and see nobody. You can go up on a rainy day and you see loads of people. Next week, rainy day, no people. Hot summer's day, thousands of people, or hundreds of people. So it's very inconsistent. So you can't be sat there. We have many days where we set up and get everything ready for 10:30 to open at 11. We sit there till 3, and then between 3 and 4, you take a day's worth of money. But it's full gas for an hour, Or on other days, we can be trying to open, and there are people already there at 10:30 wanting food, and it doesn't stop until 5 when we need to stop. So it's quite inconsistent, but the more people know about us, obviously, the more consistent it will become. One thing that we have managed to do, which is kind of a big achievement, really, is for a wooden shack in the middle of a forest, 4 kilometers up a mountain track, we are the highest ranked restaurant in the whole of the Pinzgau area on TripAdvisor.
Nice.
And that is in front of a Michelin star, 2-star Michelin star restaurant. Everywhere that you will have seen in Kaprun, everything in Zellamzee and the wider area, we are ranked number 1 as the best restaurant in Pinzgau. We probably will drop down during the winter because we're not active, we're not getting any more reviews, and that's how TripAdvisor works. The minute we reopen and we start getting more reviews again, we should be able to take back the title. So we were actually one of TripAdvisor's, what do they call them? They give out awards at the end of every year. Traveller's Choice Awards. So we won a Traveller's Choice Award in our 3rd year of being open.
Nice.
Well, 3rd summer, because we're only open in summers. Yeah. Which is pretty cool.
And then the winter business came back.
Yeah, this winter's
busy. You met someone new and you had a baby.
Yeah, I had a baby. Crazy, huh? All because of COVID. All because of COVID. And this is why I said, when you said, what, with 5-year, 10-year plan, I don't think, and I know when you go for like interviews with proper jobs, so where do you see yourself in 5 years? Mate, where do you see yourself in 5 years? How long have you been sat there interviewing people? You know what I mean? It's a stupid question. It's a hypothetical question. And I quite like giving hypothetical answers to them. But I don't think you can say where you think you will be. You can say where you might want to be. You know what I mean?
Has your outlook changed at all since having a child? Or the way you think about things?
Yeah, I kind of, this is probably because I'm a bit older. I sometimes think you shouldn't do as much of that, or you need to be careful doing that, or you want to be careful that this doesn't happen because you now need to be around because you've got a child. Yeah? If I was wiped off the face of the earth a year ago, sure, it would have impacted a few people, but there was no one relying on me. I now have a dependent who is going to depend on me for the next probably 16, 18 years, albeit there's obviously there's mum as well, but in a way, mum is dependent on me partly. So that kind of comes into my head a little bit at the minute. It's like when I'm skiing, I'm like, if someone really whacks into me and I'm taken out, whether it be broken legs, broken back, dead, we've got serious fucking problems. You know what I mean? Where before, okay, yeah, I don't want to be wiped out on skis and die because I like my life. But what would have happened would have caused some inconvenience. People would have had to clear up my properties, sell all my shit. Someone would have to look after my dog, etc., etc. But for me, now I'm kind of concerned. Well, what about Neo? You know, other than that, it's not really changed. My winters are still my winters. My summers are still my summers. Um, Obviously, the older he gets, it will change a little bit more for sure. You know, but again, that's how is it going to change? You don't know, do you? You don't know how it's going to change.
So you're excited to just keep building both businesses?
Yeah, and only because I enjoy it. It's not because I need it. Um, I enjoy I enjoy doing the market and the sales for the winter business. I also enjoy bringing 16 people all to Kaprun on the same week and us having a fantastic week. The last camp we had in March, there was 7 people had been before. The rest were all new. Of them 16, 10 of them are already booking to go on a holiday together in Spain. So Snow Camps brought that group together, gave them great time. Most of them are coming back next year for a camp, but they're also going on another ski holiday this year to Spain together as a group of friends because we brought them together and we molded that week that they had such a good time and enjoyed each other's company. That they're off on another ski holiday, which is brilliant. I get such a kick out of that. And I get a kick out of people coming back. There's a guy in resort who was on a clinic 2 weeks ago. He's actually from Australia. Oh no, he's from England, but he's been in Australia for 35 years. He was on a clinic. He's now going to join our camp on the 7th of January. He had a 20-day lift pass. He was supposed to go off to some other areas to ski. He's traded it in for a season pass, and he's going to stay till March. You know, or because he had a good time with a group of people. Um, the restaurant, to be honest, I'd rather not do the restaurant in the summer. I'd rather go back to doing the tours 2.5 days a week because that paid me enough money. Granted, the restaurant will pay me more in the long term, but it's hard work. And I'd like to have a rest in the summer so I can make the most out of the winters. But because of how it's developing and because I'm quite passionate about keeping it going and keeping at the top of TripAdvisor and giving the Austrians and the tourists dishes that they have never even seen before, other than on their holidays, and doing stuff very differently than any other Austrian mountain hut, we're kind of keeping it going. And obviously, Johnny's writing his books. We're making more and more. We're developing the area and the offering around the restaurant as well. Things in the garden for people to crack on with when they're there, whether it be games and features and photo frames to have your photos taken in with a big backdrop. And yeah, we joke that we're looking for an actor to do the voiceover for Reggie Mouse when Hollywood want to make a film about it, and when Disneyland want to build Reggie Mouse Land in Bad Fusch.
So you're happy how your life's turning out despite all the ups and downs?
I don't think I could ever say I've never been happy with how my life has been turning out. There have been ups and downs, which I think you either fucking get over and crack on, or they can ruin you. And I don't want to ruin what has been a great time for the last 40 odd years, 50 odd since I was born, let's say. And I'm kind of like, well, shit happens, get over it. You know what I mean? Crack on. And even at the time when shit happens, it can be disappointing and upsetting. As I've said, if I just crack on, I like doing what I do too much to allow anything to stop me from doing it. You know, and I have always said, if you don't like what you're doing, don't fucking do it. So if it gets to the stage where I really don't want to do the summers, I'll say to Johnny, dude, find someone else to take my half of the business because I'm not enjoying it, so I don't want to do it. Equally, if I suddenly decided I didn't want to teach people to ski, I'd say, right, I ain't going to ski in the winters. I'll open a restaurant in the winter as well, or something. You know what I mean?
And I guess you know you've been to places where you didn't know how you're going to cover the bills, but then you figured it out in the end. So you know you'll be able to do that again.
There's always a way. There's always a way, you know? And I sometimes look at people who are moaning and groaning about fucking cost of living crisis and stuff. And for sure, my electricity on all 3 apartments has gone up 50%. I'll get it paid. Somehow I'll get it paid. Even if I have to go outside Salzburg football ground and sell scarves, I'll get it paid. You know? If I have to, if I got hit and was put in a wheelchair, I go back to the drinks industry, get them to give me a car that I could drive my hands. You know what I mean? Or I'd do something. I'm not the kind of person that just says, right, fuck it, I'll sit back and let the state sort it out for me. You know?
Yeah. Great. Well, how long was the other one? Was the other one 2 hours?
An hour and 40 minutes, wasn't it? How long's this one been?
Nearly 2 hours.
Jesus Christ. And we're only up to date. Imagine if we were going to talk about the next 5 years.
I don't even know if we're pretty much up to date.
Yeah, we're up to date. We're up to date.
Anything else you want to add? Any final words of wisdom?
If anybody is interested in coming on a ski holiday to Kaprun in Austria, then check out snowcampseuropeeu.com. Or if you're coming over already, then we can organise ski lessons or ski hire equipment hire for you. There's a little plug for the business. If you're over in the summer, then come up to Jausestation Grill and Craft in Bad Fusch for the tastiest ribs in Pinzgau. And other than that, no, thank you very much, Delia. It's been very interesting talking about the last 52 years over 3 hours and 40 minutes of my life. There's 3 hours and 40 minutes I'll never get back.
Nor will the people listening.
No, if anybody listens, I'm sure there's thousands of them. But no, also, keep doing what you're doing, because I've listened to some of the others and they're pretty interesting, the people that you're getting on. So hopefully people will find my story as interesting. And if anybody out there is going through shit, then just fucking think positive and crack on, you know? Don't let things get you down. And if you are getting down, talk to people, talk to your friends, call them up, even if you haven't spoken to them for a long time, and don't fanny about. Tell them that you're not happy, tell them that you're depressed and that you're feeling shit. And do not be afraid to ask for help, because I know plenty of people who've been in that situation, some that have and some that haven't. And you are way better off asking for help if you need to help. Fortunately, I've never had to ask for help, so I'm probably in a very privileged position there. But I'm sure there are some people that have had to ask and do need to ask, so definitely do ask on a serious note. Yeah. Cool. When are you coming to Austria for some more sausages?
I don't know. I think I would like to come in summer and go hiking. And
if you come in summer,
no sausages at your heart.
And you come up to Bad Fusch, I will put sausages back on the menu for that day.
Okay, done.
It's the deal. Good stuff.
Sold. Okay.
Cool.